Pals here. Today, I'm finally continuing Game Logic. This is going to be Game Logic Part 10. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into it. For instance, in Ticket to Ride, the player can pick up a card from a face set of cards. Selecting the right card can help the player build a railroad and possibly prevent the other players from building a railroad. Goals. How do you win? Every game has a goal or victory condition. Include the winner, the first player who figures out who the murderer is, what weapon was used, and the room where the murder took place. In Uno, you win if you're the first to play all your cards, provided you remember to say Uno. In Pandemic, everybody wins if they cure all the diseases. Remember, Pandemic is a cooperative game where all players work together toward a goal. Rules. How do you play? The rules pull the elements of the games together. The rules tell the players how to play the game and what moves are allowed and what moves are not allowed. In most games on the market, the rules usually cover the contents of the box. An overview of the game, instructions, and the goal of the game, the steps for playing and scoring. Clear rules are very important. Design principles. Think about what makes a game fun. A fun game isn't too long or too short. Doesn't rely socially on luck or skill. And seems fair. Plus, it's balanced between challenging and not too hard. Those are just a few of the design principles that designers keep in mind. Let's take a closer look at these. Play length. When designing a game, play length, the time it takes to play the game, is an important consideration. If it's too short, the game might not be satisfying. If it's too long, the game might get boring or tiring. What is the right length for the game? That depends on the game and the players. A hand of Uno might just take 15 minutes. However, more complicated games such as Monopoly or Domain might take hours to play. And a Dungeons & Dragons campaign may take days. Oh, jeez. Those games need to take longer to be fully enjoyed. Oof. However, most board designers like to err on the side of shorter games. Luck versus strategy. Games of luck are based on chance, and strategy games let players outthink each other. Some games, such as chess and Go, nearly rely 100% on strategy. Other games, including Bunko, are 100% luck. Most players like games that include both luck and strategy. The hard part is finding the perfect balance. Have an element of luck, such as rolling dice or picking cards, in a board game makes players feel as if they don't know how to organize over every move or choice they make. Too much luck, though, makes players feel as though their thinking skills don't matter. Fairness. Some games don't seem fair because the player might get eliminated early or one player can run away with the game. For example, in Monopoly, one lucky player might get so wealthy that it's impossible for other players to catch up. And that's not fun. At least for all other players, this makes it. At least for all the other players. Many European style games keep all players in the game until the end. Also, many games now include a catch-up feature. This makes it possible for anyone to write up until the end of the game. For instance, Scramble includes bonuses for all your tiles in one word. And Zelda Can has the robber. be played to stall whoever's in the lead, giving others a chance to catch up. Write it down. Game designer Andy Loney jots down his ideas in the design notebook. When he gets a good idea, he writes a design memo. The act of writing down the idea helps him figure out if it's really as good as he thought it was. If it's a good idea, he keeps on working on the concept. Microgames. A microgame is a small board or card games with few components. These games are designed to be played quickly. For instance, Love Letter has 16 cards and a few tokens. A round can be played in a few minutes. There isn't a standard definition of how small it is, though. Coinage, for example, just has one card and a few coins. Don't be fooled by a microgame size, though. Many, including Love Letter, Cope, and Coinage, had won awards and can be played over and over again. Once a designer works out the concept, they typically describe the game in a document. These documents vary from designer to designer and game company to game company. No matter what they look like, though, the documents help other people working on the game to understand its goal and rules. This is essential for the next phase of game creation, development. Can you think of other projects that work best when you document every step of the way? Game start with an idea and the design problem. The problem might be how to make a game card about time travel or a cooperative game about epidemics. The designer then brings together the game elements and design principles to solve that problem. The result is the game design. At this point, the game might just be some notes in the designer's notebook. In the next part of the process, game development, the designer tests, and changes the idea to make it work. We'll tackle this in the next chapter. Game designer Alan Moon. Best known for the game Ticket to Ride, Alan Moon is one of the few designers who won the Spell of Disguise twice. He won for Elfenland in 1998 and Ticket to Ride in 2004. Born in England, he and his family moved first to Canada and then New Jersey. When he was a kid, Alan played many classic board games, his favorite being Risk. During college, he started a game club called the Jersey Wargamers. After college, he worked for several game companies, including Avonhill, Parker Brothers, and Ravensburger, a German game and tour company. Today, Alan's a freelance game designer who designed more than a dozen games. Now, time for the next chapter. Chapter 5. Back. Game development and beyond. Now that you learned what goes into thinking up new games, let's look at how these go from ideas to actual games that you can play. After all, there's no fun in a game that stays in someone's head or designer's notebook. Domain developer Dao Yu thinks of his job as being similar to book editor. He takes what the designers submit and tries to make the best game possible. Similar to the way editors take a manuscript from a writer and try to make the best book possible. Okay, the first one, let me get back to the space one. Hmm. What? Developers work out all the kinks by playtesting and revising the game. One way developers do this is by trying to break the game. What? You wouldn't. Why would they want to break a game? Wouldn't they want to make it better? Trying to break a game actually does make it better. Now, if you're wondering how, developers push the game mechanics and rules to the limit, playtesting them over and over again, make sure the game works well. Look back at the image design process in chapter 4. Designers come up with an idea, build a prototype, test it, make changes, and repeat the process again and again until the game is just right. Remember, the design document started by a game designer. This document survives throughout the whole development process. It's a way for the development team to understand what the designer intended. The development team may include the game developers, playtesters, writers, artists, managers, marketing people, and product engineers. For managers and marketing people, the designer might simply write a short description of the game. For the rest of the team, though, the designer would describe the game mechanics, rules, components, and other aspects in great detail. This information will help the development team test, revise, and produce the game. Let's look at different parts of game development: prototyping, playtesting, publishing, which includes manufacturing, distribution and retail, and marketing. Prototyping. In the first step of the process, developers build a prototype of the game, maybe even several prototypes. A prototype is a simple version of the game that can be tested out. The prototype should include the game's rules and components. It could be made of paper, cardboard, even pieces of other games. Like what? For instance, a card game developer may use a prototype using paper printouts or labels pasted onto old playing cards. Now you, for example, use plastic card sleeves in a domain prototype. You know, many developers use common Magic game gathering cards to prototype games that use cards. Magic players tend to discard cards that are less valuable. Although game development shops sell components for prototyping, most developers collect their own supplies from other sources. You make your own prototyping kit with some of these items: old playing cards, card sleeves, labels. Never mind. Playtesting. Playtesting is a crucial part of game development, one that new designers often skip. During this phase, people play the game over and over again using the prototype. Playtesting allows designers and developers to step back from their game and see its strengths and weaknesses through someone else's eyes. Someone who had never played the game before. To designers and developers, the elements of the rules of the game may seem obvious because they're so familiar with what they created. But to someone new to the game, those rules might not all be obvious. They may even be confusing or not fun. For example, the inventor of Pirates Cove, Paul Paul Randall's 1965 to 2003 playtested the first games hundreds of times. This helped them perfect the game and really understand how people played it. Often, designers and developers will playtest the game themselves first and make changes. Then they'll get players to test out the game. Sometimes they even hire people to do this. Does this sound like a dream job? Playtesters get paid in game copies. Testing is done usually several times in different stages of the game development. For example, developers may playtest before the rules are finalized. Just to see the game mechanics are fun. Later, playtests work out the issues with the gameplay and the rules. Some playtesting even may focus on how the packaging looks. I think all of these types of playtests are important. What happens during a playtest as the group plays the game? The development team watches them play and takes notes. Developers may also interview the players after each game. Based on what they learned, the designers will make changes to the game and playtest it again. Developers keep doing this until the game is fun and playable. Publishing. How the game go from a prototype to a glossy box sitting on a store shelf. There are actually several routes. Some designers and developers may work for the game company, large or small. In that case, the company publishes and markets the game. A small company might need to raise money through investors to do this. However, many designers work for themselves. They might design and develop a game and then pitch it to a game company. Remember Matt Leacock? He got his start licensing Pandemic to a game company. In either case, the game company takes care of manufacturing and distributing the game. Manufacturing. After the developers have honed the game, the company sends it to the art development department. Their graphic designers polish the artwork and writers edit the rules. The art department also designs the packaging. Once the graphic design is finished, the game goes to production people. They select the materials for the game board pieces and packaging. Production takes the computer files generated by the art department and has them printed. Board games on display at a cafe. Did you know both self-publishers and small companies sometimes use crowdfunding sites such as Kickstarter to raise the funding for game projects? Wait, there's Ticket to Ride down there. Okay. What happens once a game starts rolling off the production line? Distribution. Distribution. A game company doesn't usually sell directly to stores or consumers. Companies called distributors buy many copies of the game from the game company. Generally, these distributors play wholesale prices even below wholesale prices. This distributor stocks the game in its warehouses, takes orders from stores, and then ships the copies of the game to these stores. Retail. Today, two kinds of brick and mortar stores usually sell tabletop games. Small hobby games or game shops tend to sell stock hobby games such as Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, and Warhammer. Big box stores such as Walmart and Target tend to sell mass market board games such as Monopoly and Scramble, as well as more popular hobby games including the Settlers of Catan and Pandemics. Online giants such as Amazon and eBay sell all kinds of cardboard and card games. And that's for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you again very, very soon. Later.